Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be drawing Alucard from Hellsing because he is one of my favorite characters. I really like his design. I think he just looks like really cool. So I decided to make fan art for a dead phantom because I guess personally haven't seen a lot of art for this show, just in general. Just on like the very rare occasion. But anyway, so I'm just starting out with an under sketch here, with this red colored lead. I forget what it's called. It's by Pilot. I'll link it in the description or just put the name in. So I'm just starting with this under sketch, and it kind of gave me some trouble here. I had done some test sketches, just give me like an idea about more of his design and his features, but something was just like not coming together at first. And I had wanted to put the hat in, but then it just wasn't coming out right, so I decided to just let his hair be flowy, which I do soon. So yeah, here I get rid of the hat. But yeah, there's something, at least in the beginning, going on with like his face. He's got like one of those like typical like almost 90s like anime faces, like anime men faces, where they're just like really long, like pointy for whatever reason. But I kind of like shrink it down a little bit, make it a little bit more of my style, and then I go back in and I start refining some details here, just trying to clean it up so I know where to sketch over later. As well as like changing the expression so that he looks still kind of like menacing, but not too menacing, I guess. I don't know. I really liked drawing his clothes. I think his outfit's pretty cool. I really liked that. It's hard to see with this with this lead, because I started out with the pink and then I had like just red in next. So I ended up using red for this sketch, but in the sketches next to it, it's more like pink. But in that one with like his guns and stuff, I thought that was a really cool pose, and I enjoyed that drawing a lot. But I decided to go with just a portrait for today, just because I wanted to work out my portraits a little bit more. I want to do some more of like this kind of drawing for my OCs and stuff as well. So I figured this would be good practice. Plus I just love this character, so I wanted to draw him really bad. There's also like one picture, if you are part of the fandom then you've probably seen it, where he's just sitting there with like this cross hanging out of his mouth, and it's iconic and I love it. So I wanted to draw that, as well as little like eye things that like kind of come with whatever power he holds. I haven't watched the show in a while, I'm not gonna lie, so I'm probably sounding a little stupid right now. But like I watched the show the first time, and those like eye things just kind of like inspired me in some like other projects that I've done, like even within like my school. I don't think that they know that though. Anyway, back to the drawing because I'm getting sidetracked. Here I'm just redefining with normal pencil so that I still have some of my lines, and it's just the line art is a little bit more noticeable. A lot of this footage got cut out because I had a Snapchat on my phone of my friend's, just like her face like really close up to the left side of the notebook, and I didn't even realize until I was looking at the footage, and I was like, this is really funny, but I don't think she's gonna appreciate this being in here, so I took it out. But I mean, I don't think you didn't miss much. I'm just going over my original sketch, which you can see here. I'm just kind of playing with the line weight, I guess, and trying to add some variability, just give the drawing a little bit more interest, as well as just to clean up a lot of the shapes. If you've seen a lot of my stuff before, you know that I start with a pretty messy sketch underneath, just because I get really lazy and I just I do it more gesturally, and a lot of just like blocking stuff out. And when I go to move things, sometimes I just don't feel like erasing it. So then it gets kind of like hectic and hard to see sometimes. So this just helps with that. Okay, so now I'm going back in with the watercolor. Going in for the first time. And I really like his colors as well, like black and red. Those are my faves. But also this is like a really like cool red. Very, I don't know what the word is. But, like it's not quite maroon, it's still like quite red, but it's got like definitely some cooler, darker color in it. And I like dark reds a lot. So, definitely up my alley. And I had forgotten to add the line art to the one side, or I guess just the sketch of his jacket to the one side, so I just had to like imagine it. Like I did it in the red pencil, but then I had like erased it a little bit, but then I didn't go over it again with the pencil. So I just had to lock it in and hope for the best. Then I tried to make his eyes a little bit more orangey. I think I kind of wanted to go for like a glowing effect. I didn't really end up achieving it, and I ended up like darkening it later. And I do a similar thing with these little eyeball things. For the background, I really wanted to capture, I don't know how to like describe any of this. He's got like, well, they're like with the eyeballs. There's like this, they're kind of like holes, but they're kind of like sharp. I don't know how to describe this. They kind of look like tears. But they aren't really into like whatever flowy magic thing he's got going on. They're supposed to be like the same like orangey red color as the eyes and stuff, but I didn't want to make the background black because I'm making the hair black, which you can see now. Look at me go. So I was kind of having some issues with that, but we'll get into that later. So here I'm just doing the hair, and I wanted to get more color going than just black in the hair. I don't have just a black paint, so I have to like mix it, and unfortunately I mixed it a little too like green. I didn't really want it to be green. I wanted to work more like chromatically, I guess. So like staying within the regions of like purple, red, and orange. But yeah, somehow I in mixing the black, I got a little bit more of like blue, yellows, and greens in there. So it takes like several layers to kind of correct that. And I end up using like purples and reds, and even I think like a little bit of orange to kind of correct that. Which I get there eventually, but yeah, it does create like some cool dimension in the hair, but yeah, it's just kind of like annoying. I ended up leaving like his eyelashes for like a lot later in the process than I was like intending, so he kind of looks a little derpy. In the before, or I guess like in the process. Okay, so now I'm going back in and adding more shadows and deepening up his jacket, because with these watercolors that I have, I love them. And I just feel like this happens with watercolor in general. Like, you'll lay down a color and it'll look like good and decent. Like, yeah, that's the color I want there. And then it's like, surprise, shoddy. It's not. It dries like so much lighter than you had originally intended. And I feel like for lighter colors, it tends to do the opposite, where it would dry like a little bit darker than you meant. But you know, it's whatever. So I just go in and start to darken stuff up. Gotta layer the color and the pigment. I also add even more. I think I'm using the like ultramarine blue, but just like a little bit to get the shading that I want. So here I'm like, I noticed that the hair is green. So I start adding in like a lot of red like right away to try to correct that, right? Well, then it makes like these red patches where it was less intense and less green, while the rest of it still stays green. And I'm just like, oh, good. And then I'm also like defining the front bit a bit more so that you can tell it's separated. Yeah, but you can see that it's like, you know, when you're trying to like match black clothing and you got like 3 different shades of black that you're wearing. I feel like that's what was going on for a good bit here with the hair. But I end up having to go in with like a lot thicker and more pigmented layers of the red and the purple to really cancel out the green. Which I mean is fine, because I'm gonna have to layer it anyway, as dark colors demand. Every time I do watercolor, I pretty much only ever use just this one brush. It is my favorite brush because it's got one of those like really thin like tips, but then it's like fairly decently sized the rest of the way, so it gives me a lot of like brush control and size control, which I like a lot because I feel like I have a lot of freedom. I also I have so many brushes, but I struggle to use them because when I get in the zone, I'm like, let's go! And I'll just keep working until I can't, and then I'm like, wow, you did not change brush, huh? And you definitely should have. I noticed that a lot more with like the brushes where I can't do as much with, because I'll still try to anyway. So then I'm just using like a little bit. I mixed like the red and the blue to get this little purpley color, as well as just the slightest amount of like a burnt umber to gray it out a little bit, and I used that for a lot of the shadows on the white and on his face, because from what I can tell, like, he doesn't naturally, as he's supposed to be like dead and vampire, scary monster boy, he doesn't have a lot of like color to his face, so I try to keep it cooler toned to kind of like keep that vibe, I guess, going. So yeah, I try to use more muted colors, and if I do, or when I do, because I do, I use more like blues and purples in the shadows on him. Painting this little cross thing was fun because I was trying to make it look, you know, metallic. And I really like painting metal. I mean, I don't know if I did like a fantastic job, but I mean, I was also trying to still keep it like cartoony, to like fit the style, but still have enough like variation in the color so that you can tell that it's metal. I also try to like vary the colors that I use within it, so that, because metal reflects a lot of colors, which is a good way to help indicate metal, is by having several colors kind of in there. Like, you can use all gray, but that gets a little bit boring, I think, personally. So I like to include a lot of, like, what the light would be, where the shadows would be, what it would be reflecting kind of thing. So here I made the mistake of like kind of starting to add in warmer shadows, like they're a little bit redder than I had wanted, and I continued to mess that up a little bit later, unfortunately, which makes the shadows get like really dark under his neck, which I guess is fine, because that's, I mean, it's kind of the style, but I just hadn't really intended for that to happen. Oh, the light also, like, just absolutely went out on me. Like a storm rolled in. I don't really know what happened. I just lost my light source. So, naturally, I had to go get my lamp. So that's why the color changes. Sorry about that. I love that he still does not have the eyelashes. I took, like, a couple breaks while I was painting this. And every time I'd look at it, I was like, where are his eyelashes? Even his eyebrows not there. What? Anyway, I'm just too focused on anything else at this point, I guess. Finally. Yes. Just kidding. Not yet. What? Oh, I really waited. Very good. Okay, so here's where I add a lot of that warm shadow. Like, this is like a orange brown. And you see me, like, I regret it, and then just, like, kind of follow through, like, well, I guess that's there now. I kind of tried to go over it with a little bit more of a purpley color. It didn't really end up changing the warm from it. But it's fine. It's fine. So finally, here we go. Going in with the eyebrows. I started out, like, really purple with this, for whatever reason. I ended up adding a little bit to, I guess, like, red to counteract that, but so after this point, I feel like it really starts to come together more, and I'm able to, like, define more of the features, and it just starts popping out more. I also end up adding a lot more, like, blues to the shadows, which I think also really helps tie it together, because right now it's, like, leaning very heavy on, like, the warmer side. Like, even the purples that I'm using are warmer, so I think the blues really help to round out that color variety, I guess, that I was looking for. I'm also defining the hair a little bit more, because even though it's black, I like to have some variation, so I'm trying to get that in there. I also decided to add some shading to the eyes as well, and I'm really glad that I did, because I think that made them look really cool, and they, like, kind of pop out of it, and look like more like actual eyes. So I don't know, I like spooky things, so I like that it looks spooky. And I at this point I start really liking this piece personally, because I just think it's starting to come together a lot more. It's like, you know, when you get to that point in a piece where you're like, finally, light at the end of the tunnel. Like, there are definitely still things that need to be done, but you're like, yes, at least I don't hate it anymore, because that's always the worst for me. Like, I cannot leave a piece when I still hate it. Otherwise, I will never come back to it ever again. I'll be like, burn it, actually. So, I like to try not to abandon pieces until I like them, because then I want to finish them. How to trick my brain into doing art. deepening the shadows on the face to give a little bit more separation between the face and the hair, make it look, I mean, it still looks 2D, but a little less 2D. And more like his hair is like in front of his face rather than just a part of his face. Even though, honestly, like, it is just like a black mass. That is just how his hair rolls. Yes, here we go. Look at that blue. I feel like it changes the mood of the piece, ever so slightly. I guess not the mood, it just like, it rounds out the full, like, what am I trying to say here? It gives more of like that reflected, kind of like shadow, reflected light effect that I think brings a piece together. And I'm adding that to the glove as well, naturally. I ended up leaving a lot of the like pink and red from the pencil in the glove. It wasn't really intentional, but I really don't hate that it's there. It was kind of cool. It gives an interesting effect to it. And I mean, like, it's not like, I'm not putting too much pressure on this piece. Like, it's just kind of like a little sketch, doodle, colored thing that I'm just messing around with in my sketchbook. So I'm not too worried about the final details. So here I'm going in with, I decided to make the background orange because I can't make it black because I feel like that'd be too conflicting with the hair, and it'd be really hard to define that. So I decided orange was my next best bet. I try to lean it more like on the reddish side, just to keep it more consistent with the rest of the piece. But I didn't want to leave it white, like, because then that would have been conflicting with his glove and his skin tone. So I wanted to have enough contrast there, so I needed more of like a lighter mid-tone. And finally, I am adding in just some finer details with gouache. I have my little palette there. I'm adding a little bit, I tried to add a little bit of like lightness, and as I said, like the glowy whatever, and it didn't work out, so I quickly gave up on that. And then I'm just outlining where I feel like some of the line art gets a little bit lost, just to define everything, and yeah, just make the piece feel a little bit more final. Here I try to add in yellow to his eyes, and then I'm like, wow, that, I don't know, gouache just kind of looks dull sometimes on watercolor, so I had to like mix watercolor over top of what I did because I did not like how it looked. But it's fine because it worked out in the end. So here is the final piece. Yay! Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you again next time.